running in circles and bouncing off the wall and slapping you in the face or whatever the kids do.
Yeah.
They're listening to little heathens for like.
People try to lend a hand, but they can't help. You gotta pick and choose. We are wearing different shoes. Be a bigger you. Go and get it, never hands out.
So the very next thing is going to be insulin index. Insulin. The number one thing to talk about, insulin is a hormone that transfers those polysaccharides and those monosaccharides to where they need to go. All right. This is the thing that you're going to want to regulate. If you have things that are very simple like monosaccharides, simple sugars, glucose, if you eat an apple or if you eat a candy, which is just straight sucrose, your insulin spikes massively. Why that matters is that you want the insulin to match how much sugar you're intaking, if that kind of makes sense. So that way the insulin's job is to grab that and burn it as fast as possible. Or it's going to store it, right? If you have a healthy pancreas, is where insulin is made. If you have a healthy pancreas, it works like a child. When a child has a piece of candy, they just start running in circles and bouncing off the wall and slapping you in the face or whatever the kids do.
Yeah.
They're listening to little heathens for like 30 minutes and then they just crash.
Yeah.
That's healthy pancreas.
Okay.
Right? That needs to be happening.
Right.
If you have the opposite effect, if you consume, sucralose, carbs, white bread, that kind of stuff, and you get tired, that means you have an unhealthy pancreas. Your insulin isn't responding in accordance to how much carbs you have, or simple carbs you have. Right? So the long and short of the insulin index is just you want to become insulin sensitive, not insulin resistant. Insulin resistant is type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes. Insulin sensitive is what I'm always trying to get into by having a very low carb diet, so that way when I do have carbs, I burn it as energy right away. So I'll consume carbs before I work out real fast. Right. But if you have an unhealthy pancreas, you come out insulin resistant, you eat those few carbs before you work out, and then it's stored as fat, and then you didn't even get to use them as energy, right? So that's why when people tell you, oh yeah, you have carbs when you work out, you're fine. Well, what's your pancreas doing?
Yeah.
What's your insulin doing?
Yeah.
And there's ways to test this, of course. People, if you have diabetes of some type, you're used to testing your insulin intake. I do it for ketones because it tests insulin and ketones or leptin. So I know usually where my insulin level's at. And it's something to keep in mind of. You don't have to track that, but if you want to get heavy into this world, and at least in the beginning, to get an understanding of what you're kind of consuming and how much of something like carbs you're supposed to be consuming a day, you kind of want to know your insulin index. You want to know how much of that stuff you're taking in. And it's been proven, in fact, I have a study here that I want to make sure I wrote it down. Hyperinsulinemia, which is essentially having a lot of insulin in your, meaning you're taking a lot of white bread or that kind of thing, is recently shown to be an independent risk factor for coronary heart disease. What that means is, by itself, having lots of insulin in your bloodstream chronically, like all the time, is shown to massively increase heart disease. I was reading some research where it's like cancer massively spiked. There's all kinds of heart problems that you would get from just that one factor. So keep that in mind in case you're more the person who doesn't care about weight loss, but cares more about health, like just overall life health.
Right.
Cool. So insulin, does that all make sense? Did I rush through that a little too much?
What I got is, man, your insulin is spiked whenever you have a lot of the simple carbs, and when that's overdone, it can create problems in your body.
Absolutely, yeah. That can, yeah. So you don't want to keep that high too often.
Right.
It also triggers hunger. It's like you eat like a high carb breakfast, like bagels or toast or something.
Yeah.
Then by 11 o'clock, you're like, man, I'm starving. It's because the insulin dropped, and you're like, oh, hungry again. So it's like saying, hey, eat more. So that's why I try to get away from that cycle.
So your body thinks it's low on something, when really just the insulin is dropping. So it's thinking, oh,
it's time to refuel.
Yeah.
Which is not great. It's not necessary. All right.
So are you saying that if your insulin isn't spiked, when your insulin levels decrease, that usually is a sign of becoming hungry or needing to eat?
Yeah, I can trigger the cycle of always eating. Bodybuilders do that crap.
Okay.
So for bodybuilding, it's fine.
Right.
Because they want to have, in fact, they want so much insulin, they actually inject insulin into their body, even if they don't have diabetes, because insulin helps with growth hormone factors. So they can get bigger and bigger and bigger by having more and more insulin, because that's what it does. It's what's the term for it? It's anabolic to mass. It's anabolic to muscles. It's anabolic to fat storage, but bodybuilders don't have to worry about fat storage because they're working out so often that there is more just anabolic to muscles. So that's why they do it. If you're either type of eating 6 meals a day, just be wary. That's a bodybuilding approach. If you're not a bodybuilder, if you're not working out 3-4 hours a day, I wouldn't recommend it. All right. Our final section for today is glycemic index, and I love this one because it's very popular, it's very common, it's really easy to understand. It's probably if you're on a higher carb diet, this is the one you want to listen to. This model, the glycemic index. So the glycemic index was actually devised to classify certain carbohydrates based solely on their effects on blood sugar, rather than like the chemical structure. So the chemical structure was like monosaccharides, polysaccharides, that stuff.
Right.
Now blood sugar, similar to insulin a little bit, but this is where we get into the argument of simple versus complex carbohydrates. Right? This is when we're talking about white bread versus whole grain bread. Right? How is that affecting the body? If you take nothing else away from this entire conversation about carbohydrates, this is the section where we're focusing on which carbs you should be consuming if you're going to be consuming carbohydrates.
Right.
If you're on a higher carb diet, you want to consume a higher amount of these complex carbohydrates. The simple ones will increase how much fat is stored because you can't burn all the energy at one time. It's like, God, what's a good example of this? I thought I had a good metaphor before for this. So simple versus complex carbohydrates. You have a think of it as a clock after you eat. If you don't consume a certain amount of the insulin a certain amount of time with simple carbohydrates, it gets stored as fat, right? Because this is me eating white bread. I like 3 slices of white bread. Eat all 3 slices, insulin. In fact, white bread was like unanimously across the board. So much insulin spikes. Like it was just like on every chart I was reading, because I was looking at the glycemic and insulin indexes. It was just like white bread is like at the top of the thing.
Wow.
So white bread with jam on it, fucked. It's like diabetes central.
No wonder everyone's
no
putting
wonder
on
bread.
Yeah.
I like you're saving that part. So that's they have that clock, and it starts. You're eating that bread, and you have so much time to burn that energy. And if you don't, it'll get stored. What's cool about the complex carbohydrates generally have mixed in a lot more of that one polysaccharide we talked about, cellulose, also known as fiber. If that's mixed in, it actually, what they say is called regulation of insulin. It slows down that spike just enough where it gives you increases that clock time, so that you can burn that energy before it becomes stored as fat. That's why it's so important. So you want the highest fiber things possible. You want the glycemic, very, very high in the glycemic index, very low in the glycemic index.
Yeah.
Don't go the opposite route. High in glycemic index means you have massive blood sugar. Low in glycemic index means you have low blood sugar, right? Keep it low. Unless you're diabetic, by all means. I'm not a doctor, I'm not your physician. Please go talk to your physician. This is just for nutritional advice. So, keeping that in mind, speaking of myself, the highest glycemic item that I'll have generally has to be blueberries. And that is the lowest thing out of all the fruits and berries that exist, is blueberries. Because the fiber is so high and the sugar is incredibly low. It's like for every cup you get like 4 grams of sugar or something like that. Plus it has like 9 grams of fiber. It has like twice as much fiber as that sugar. So that sugar that I'm getting, even if I have like 4 cups of it, those 16 grams of sugar is going to last me so long because it's twice as much cellulose that's slowing regulating my insulin, right?
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. When you're choosing, all I want you to get out of this is when you're choosing, like, okay, I have, I have a white Wonder Bread sandwich or peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or I have a turkey Swiss on whole grain. Obviously, turkey Swiss on whole grain, right? Because, and this is the most fun part, this is newer research, protein has also been noticed to reduce how much the insulin spikes.
Really?
And how long? Yeah. So that's why everyone's talking like protein. I'm not a big advocate of protein generally, but for that one reason, where regulation insulin level, it brings glycemic index even lower. Because of that, now I am like, whoa, that makes sense. All that like whole grain with like turkey and then having some cheese. It's a lot of protein, it's a lot of cellulose. It's not a bad meal if you're into the high carb thing. So something to keep in mind. Cellulose is high as you can get on everything you consume, and protein. Keep that protein high, all right?
There you go.
That's it. Glycemic index, the insulin index, and the chemical structure of the carbohydrates. Hopefully you learned a lot from this episode. I know it was very dense.
Yeah.
But Benny here wanted something like, man, I want to know everything about carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, how many carbs do you have a day?
Right.
Oh man,
Depends on what you
if
want
you're on
to
the
do, right?
you're on the ketogenic diet, you want to have about 5 to 10% of your calories coming from carbohydrates. So that's anywhere between 30 to 100, depending on how much you're consuming.
Right.
That's grams, 30 to 100 grams.
And then also know where that source of what that source of carbohydrates is too.
Yeah.
You know, so you can say grams and like, okay, I'm gonna eat like a Snickers, or something like that.
Even if you're on the ketogenic diet, it still applies exactly. With
Right.
the glycemic index, where does that fall on the insulin spike?
Yeah.
It still consume fiber with it. I still do that. That's why blueberries are my main source of sugar, right? Because it's a lot of fiber.
Right.
I even, this is for a separate episode, but I consume a supplement called berberine. Berberine is also an insulin regulator. So my blood sugar doesn't spike when I have to have things that are high carb.
Okay.
So even on those days where my cheat days, but really they're my carb reload days every
Right.
3 weeks, I can still consume a lot of fiber. I still consume a lot of berberine. I still consume things that are regulating my blood sugar. I'm not just like going shit crazy on bagels and cake and
Right.
breakfast tacos. Actually, I do go crazy on breakfast tacos.
Yeah, you
but-
go nuts.
I love breakfast tacos. So, if you're on a high carb diet, then you're going to be more in the 150 to 250 range of carbohydrates. Right? Again, complex, low glycemic, polysaccharides, that world. Make your body do more work. Simple sugar, sucralose and glucose, it's very simple for the body breakdown.
Right.
It's like you want your body to work for it, this kind of thing, because it consumes energy. The metabolic rate has to increase in order to digest that stuff, which
Yeah.
means you're burning energy while you're consuming energy.
So you can it's almost like you can make your food a workout for your body.
Yeah.
Just by the what you're consuming.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
what a negative calorie food is, actually.
Ah.
You know, people talk about like celery as a
Celery,
negative
yeah.
calorie food. You're
Yeah.
consuming it and you're actually burning more energy than you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not sustainable, but it's nice to like make you feel full for a little bit until
Yeah.
you can get something
And
better.
this is a lot of great information because I've heard many times, you know, people say, "Oh, your diet is, you know, it's 80% of it, like your success." But when we get into these details like this explains why, your nutrition and your diet is like so important.
Yeah, it's incredibly important.
Yeah.
So that's all we have for today. If you have more questions on carbohydrates, of course, reach out to us. But this is the episode on carbs.
Yeah, this is the episode on carbs, and then also check out our other 2 episodes in this series on proteins and fats.
If you want to get a better understanding of how our tracking management accountability system works, please go to RxFit.co. That's where the everything's going to be almost, roughly I would say 95% of all information that I've aggregated over the years will be available for free on the website. The only thing you would be paying for if you want to pay for more stuff would be the actual customized stuff, where you meet with an online coach once a week as a part of a group with the team. It's a whole process. But if you don't, you just want access to these, well, these videos are already on YouTube, they're free. But if you want access to all the workouts, you want access to more tracking systems, things we recommend, all that stuff, by all means, use it up.
Supplements.
Or just leave a comment in the questions below if you want a video on something specific. We can cover that for you as well.
Yep.
Until next time, guys, like, subscribe, say hi,
Yeah.
wave.
Follow.
Yeah, listen to this music that's coming out right now.
I'm condoning going forward for
What is it?
those
What
with a
are we
motive,
playing?
undivided focus, open
What are
doors,
y'all
taking
listening to
up.
right now?
Yeah, what are you listening to?
Yeah, tell us what we're listening to. Leave that in the comments.
Let me know if I'm dancing right to it.
Yeah.
I'm off beat.
Have to hit the Michael Jackson.
Lamborghini dreaming,
Feel
started fitting sloppy.
Look at my twist.
Watch me, made a lane that kept me staying on my own. This is my throne, that's why I'm taking the high road.
Oh, man.
Whoa, no one knows the way that you dance
Man,
yourself. People
that was
try to lend a hand.